Like the man, someone tries to shoot him at a golf course, and you have members of the media who say he brought it on himself. And then Hillary Clinton goes on MSNBC and says the media should really be harder on Trump. How much harder can you get? This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Sick of fad diets that work for a couple months and then you gain all the weight back? Well, I'm down 37 pounds on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program, and I've kept that weight off for more than a year. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. So Hillary Clinton apparently is out with a new book. Who's going to read that? Who's going to read that? What else can she say? I don't know. But anyway, she did an interview on MSNBC with Rachel Maddow, and she said a couple things that are just truly unhinged. So one of the things she was talking about in 2016 that Mueller, indicted a bunch of Russian nationals for election interference, which I'm fine with. Like, look, if one of our enemies is trying to sow distrust or discord in the United States of America and you want to indict them, and it's usually just like symbolic, right? By all means. But Hillary Clinton says that maybe that's not going far enough.
But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrent.
Okay, so American citizens who are engaged in this kind of propaganda, civilly or criminally charged. That is insane. And it's insane that she's on a news show, and I get it. It's a progressive news show. It's left-wing. It's Rachel Maddow. But that a news show that gets to operate in this country because of our First Amendment and the protections they enjoy would just let someone like Hillary Clinton sit there and say something like that and have it go completely unchecked. Like, ma'am, are you really talking about jailing American citizens for their First Amendment rights? Like, yeah, do I think there are people who are out there spewing nonsense about elections on social media? 100%. But unfortunately, the First Amendment lets you say dumb stuff. It even lets you say stuff that's not true. But I would also point out that there were a lot of things considered misinformation, propaganda during the COVID era or during the 2016 election that turned out to be very true, that were suppressed. So imagine if you had thrown people in prison back in 2016 or 2020 for things they said about COVID, for things they said about the elections, and then 5 years later you found out, well, they were right the whole time. How do you make that right? So that's always the issue, right? Is who's making the judgment about whether something's misinformation? Who's making the judgment about whether something is propaganda? Very different if it's a foreign power that has these massive centers where they've got Russian entities on the internet sowing discord among Americans pretending to be someone else. Very different than if you have an American citizen that's sharing their opinion online and it's opinion the government doesn't like. So shame on Rachel Maddow. Honestly, more than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton's going to spew that stuff. That's what she does. But shame on Rachel Maddow for having a show that's protected by the First Amendment and allowing a guest, any guest, to come on and say something like that without being challenged. And then there was this cut. I had to pull it as well. It's not getting as much traction on social media, but I thought it was just as bad. So Hillary Clinton is talking about how the media covers Donald Trump. And somehow in her mind, she's convinced herself that the media isn't hard enough on Donald Trump. Here it is.
I don't understand why it's so difficult for the press to have a consistent narrative about how dangerous Trump is. The late, great journalist Harry Evans, one time said that, journalists should, really try to achieve objectivity. And by that, he said, I mean, they should cover the object. Well, the object in this case is Donald Trump, his demagoguery, his danger to our country and the world, and stick with it. They were merciless about what they saw as President Biden's, problems in the debate and calling for him to withdraw. I believe Donald Trump has disqualified himself over and over and over again to be a presidential candidate, let alone a president.
Holy smokes. Can you imagine? I can't even put myself in the mindset of someone who would say, I can't believe the media is not being harder on Donald Trump. Oh, they were so hard on Joe Biden. They were hard on Joe Biden for like 2 weeks after ignoring his mental decline for 2 years. So she's using that as an example of, oh, the media, they were so hard on Biden, they should give Donald Trump the same treatment. They've been giving him that treatment for 9 years straight. And they are relentless. And it is really, truly a special headspace to convince yourself otherwise. I mean, Donald Trump won in 2016 in spite of the media's full-blown meltdown over him. And he lost in 2020, and I would argue that the media only ratcheted up its anti-Trump rhetoric, and it's worse now than it's ever been. I mean, the man, for the second time in a short period, someone tried to kill him. And there was like, I don't know if you've seen it, the Cincinnati Enquirer, they put this article out literally saying, like, oh, political violence isn't okay, but Donald Trump brings this on himself. Like the man, someone tries to shoot him at a golf course, and you have members of the media who say he brought it on himself. And then Hillary Clinton goes on MSNBC and says the media should really be harder on Trump. How much harder can you get? I don't want to see it, but I would love to see what your idea of being hard on Donald Trump is if this isn't it. Like assassination attempts, and it's his fault. That's about as hard on a political candidate as one can get.